Hi everybody. Welcome back to This Reader's Life. My name is Stephanie and the name of the channel is This Reader's Life, Books and Other Blessings, and I am so glad that you stopped by. It is the middle of June. I don't know, time just goes by so fast. I say that every time, I know, but apparently it's true. But right now I've been participating in 3 of the June events, and I've been reading quite a little bit, and I'm sort of pleased with my progress because I've read something that applies to each of the events that I decided to participate in. The first one that I had decided on was Joy Reading June, which is Joyful Reading in June, but I've read a couple of books in that for that event, and then the other event is June on the Range, which is reading westerns, and I have completed one western for sure, and then the third one is Big Books of Summer, and I have completed one book that was right at 400 pages, but I will talk about that book for sure, but it wasn't really one of the books that I chose. It fell more into my happy books or my joyful reading in June. So I will talk about that book, but I'm still hoping to read another book that fits into the big books of summer 2026, and maybe more than one, but for at least for June, by the end of June, I have something that I'm working on, and I'll talk about that in just a minute. But I also have one book, and this is just a recap of what I've read for middle of June. We're halfway through. And it's also the middle of the year, but that's a whole different story. So The Lumber Baron's Wife by Lynn Austin is the first book that I'm going to talk about, and this was sort of something that I got done at the end of May, so I'm not sure it really counts for one of my events. Although I would call it a sort of a joyful book, although it's got some kind of tough stuff in it. The name of the book is The Lumber Baron's Wife, written by Lynn Austin, and it actually came out in April of 2026, so it's pretty new. I have a really hard time with some Christian books because they're just flat cringy or too preachy for me, and I tend to abandon them, and I can see where they're going. But literary Christian fiction I really enjoy, and this came pretty close to matching my tough requirements, I guess. But so the book is dual timeline, and the characters in the historical portion of the book are a lumber baron and his wife, and whose names are Henry and Kate, and then also a doctor and his wife, and their names are John and Hannah. And John and Hannah, or John, is sort of recruited by Henry, who is the lumber baron, to come to this town. They need a doctor in the town, and the town is growing. It has a busy time of year when the loggers come in from the forest where they've been working, and it's all around Lake Michigan, and there's loggers are really rough, and there's also lots of injuries, so they really are in need of a doctor. And the doctor and his wife are in New York, and they have I believe it was New York or Boston, and they've recently lost 3 children to illness. And Hannah, the wife, she's just sort of broken. She's sort of numb from the event. She feels as if everything that she was meant to do in life has been taken completely away from her. And in a lot of ways, she wants to be a good Christian woman, and she is really fighting some anger and blame towards her husband. It was her husband who took one of the children into an area where they were exposed to some kind of a disease. I don't think they ever tell you what it was, but all 3 of the children catch it and die. So it's devastating for both of them, and they are struggling. He thinks that moving to this town that is away will be better for them. It's sort of a new start for them, and plus it's a huge opportunity. This lumber baron who's very rich has built his own beautiful home in the town, and then he's also offered to build for John and Hannah their home, which is a smaller home. It's sort of in the woods, but it's very beautiful with beautiful woodwork. Of course, it's all about the lumber, and it has beautifully stenciled walls and built-in cabinetry and things like that. So they go there, and one of the things is that they're very surprised about is that when they meet Henry's wife, her name is Kate, and she is extremely young. She's extremely beautiful, and she's also just a little rough around the edges. She doesn't dress modestly. She has sort of some rough language, and she likes to. She's quick to say, "Oh, let's have a drink," and they sort of find out that maybe she was an actress on the stage, and that is where Henry found her. And Henry is he's obviously crazy in love with her, but he also is aware that if she's going to be a hostess to in society, that she needs a little help. And so he asks Hannah to help her, and Hannah really doesn't want to at first, but once she gets to know Kate has some sweetness to her. She wants to be good and kind, and she just doesn't get it. She thinks that tea parties are boring. She's like, when are we going to have some fun? And so Hannah kind of guides her along, and she's shocked by some of the things that Kate tells her. There's also a little undercurrent of potential, maybe some domestic abuse that may go on. But we find out very, very early in the novel, because Hannah is going back in her mind over what could have happened to Kate, that Kate has disappeared. No one knows where she is or what has happened to her, and her husband has sort of written it off, and he sort of has an explanation for it. But I don't remember every single thing about this, but I will tell you that it's a mystery. What happened to Kate is a mystery, and Hannah would really like to understand it better. The current portion of the dual timeline, it centers around Ashley and her husband, and they have decided to move from the town that they're in to this town near Lake Michigan, where her husband has gotten a job that is associated with the forest and ecology and preservation and things like that. And they've agreed that they'll go there, that it's a great opportunity for them, and she will get a job, some kind of a job once they get there. And she loves history and is really interested, and as part of her education has to do with museum management. And so she's excited about going there as well, although she just expects to probably get some kind of a job teaching or something like that, since they're moving on his account. So once they get there, what happens is that they're planning to buy a home or find a home to live in, and for a while they live in a hotel, I think. But while they're looking for a home to live in, she finds the home of John and Hannah. Of course, they're long gone at that point, but I think the house had been a rental, and so they end up buying that home, and it's it creates a sort of a rift between her and her husband. He wants something modern and sleek and new that they don't have to worry about, and she loves the idea of restoring this house in the woods, and so it kind of creates a rift between them. She's also interested in the lumber baron's home, which is currently under the care of the Historical Society there, and they are trying to build it. They have very limited funds. They don't have anybody that's over highly educated or skilled to do the types of repairs that might need to be done, or find the right people to do it. And that's kind of her cup of tea. And so she is hoping that she can end up getting hired to do exactly that. At this point, there's not even a job. No job has even been created yet, but that is her hope. And so they start to discover things about their own home, and it kind of goes back and forth between their relationship, Ashley and her husband, and then the relationship between John and Hannah, and how they're trying to rebuild their relationship because it suffered so, and Hannah regaining her faith and regaining her love. And she has tried to pass on her faith to Kate, who has now disappeared, and there's so it's a good mystery. It does wrap up well. It I enjoyed the book. The themes of learning to love again, and kind of a failure of faith due to such a hard um, such a hard loss. And so that part I enjoyed very much. The current couple, um, they suffer some distance between one another, and especially because the people that are involved in the historical society um, are they're sort of I don't want to say churchy people, but they're people that go to church. There are some Christians there, and Ashley is sort of drawn in that direction, and her husband wants nothing to do with it. So that's sort of another conflict that goes on in this. Overall, I enjoyed this. There's a little content that might be disturbing for some people. Of course, there's the death of the 3 children. There's some talk about prostitution um, in the historical part of it. Some talk about a little talk about domestic abuse. There is some murder. Nothing is graphic. There's nothing graphic in any of the explanations of anything that happens. Then there's also an unplanned pregnancy, which could be a trigger for some people. Overall, I thought this was a good. The faith portion of this book did a really good job of not being. I just call it cringy. It didn't do too much of that. It wasn't real preachy, and it was an enjoyable book. I didn't think it was the best book I ever read. I would give it 3 stars if I were. I don't really give stars, but that's kind of where my heart goes with that one. It's about a 3-star book for me. The next one that I read for Joy Reading June is The Unselected Journals of Emma M. Lyon, Volume 5. And I started these not very long ago, and I'm blowing through them way faster than I really want to because they're so much fun, and I enjoy them so much. And I'm listening to them on Audible, or not Audible, but listening to them as Audible books. And Emma's adventures they just kind of keep rolling along. And I have heard people say nothing really happens. And actually a lot does happen, but they're not, to me, this is a character-driven situation of this young woman living in a small town near London, and her friendships and all the different characters of the town. This particular volume, it takes place in November and December, and it sort of deals with somewhat with a great sorrow that Emma has suffered. She's suffered a huge loss. She's in mourning for her parents. She's in mourning for a young gentleman who has died in a war. She's fast friends with her tenant, who is his name is Pierce, and he's a photographer. She's also friends with the Duke of Islington, which is it's just the whole story of that is comical. And she's also friends with young Hawks, who is the pastor there of the church there in her town. He is the minister, and I love young Hawks. He is not a very conventional minister. He reads poetry as part of his sermons. He reads A Christmas Carol. He reads things that aside from scripture, and he tends to show up in the right place at the right time. Nobody really knows how. So perhaps he's got a little divine intervention from time to time. Anyway, I enjoy Emma M. Lyon and her journals so much. They are told entirely through her journal entries. But that's Emma M. Lyon. So that was one of my joy reading in June. I will go on to volume 6 soon, and I hate to come to the end of them. There are only 8 volumes right now. There will be more. Beth Brower is absolutely brilliant, and I cannot wait. Volume 9 is supposed to come out in 2026, and I am counting on that one too. So the next book is June on the Range, and the book that I chose was Searchers, and it is by Alan LeMay. It was written in I've got it here on my notes. It was published in 1954, and if I were going to give this book stars. I would give it 4 stars. I really, really liked it. Thought it was beautifully written. This is not a pulp western. This is not like that at all. It is it is not Lonesome Dove. I've read Lonesome Dove, and Lonesome Dove probably has a place in my heart that isn't going to be taken. Well, I hope someday it is. I hope that happens, but right now that has not happened. But The Searchers is about 2 men who go on a 5-year epic journey trying to find a young girl named Debbie who was kidnapped by the Comanches in a massacre. Her family was massacred and she was taken. And these 2 gentlemen, their motives are different. They are both very determined, and this is it's a really, really well written novel. Amos is one of the characters. He is the young girl's uncle. He is the brother of her father, and he truly hates the Comanches based on other experiences he's had in the past. He's very knowledgeable. He's good at tracking. There is a lot of history and authenticity in talking about the indigenous tribes of that time, as well as the Texas Rangers during that time, and the dangers that settlers in that part of Texas were under during that time, and how they did have to be constantly on alert, that nothing was settled at that point. So this is a beautifully written novel. The other gentleman that is looking for Debbie is an adopted boy, an orphaned boy who has been sort of not adopted but taken care of by Debbie's family since he was about 6 or 7 years old, so probably before Debbie was ever born. So he's always been a part of her life, and he cares deeply. He was away at the time that the entire family was murdered and Debbie disappeared, and he is searching for her as well. Alan LeMay did a really good job with research of the way that the Comanche lived at that time, of the way that of horses, of prairie living, of outdoor life, and the setting becomes so much a part of the story. The weather, the visibility, the flora and fauna, all of it is absolutely beautifully done, and I liked this book a lot. It was also made into a movie. John Ford directed The Searchers, and I think it was about 3 or 4 years after the book was published. It was wildly popular, and they say sometimes that Alan LeMay was a victim of his own good writing because the movie was so wildly popular. It doesn't follow the book exactly. It starred John Wayne, and I know that I've seen it. It's been a long time. So, but and I'd like to see it again because I think it would be fun to watch it. But again, there's a lot of psychological insight in this, a lot of emotional responses to things that I thought were written really well, and I thought the ending was just exceptional in that you don't really see it coming, and you don't really see how this book is going to end until it ends when it ends, and then it's sort of breathtaking. I like this book very, very much. 4 stars. The next book, Theo of Golden, written by Alan Levi. I read it for Joy Reading June. It is by Alan Levi. It was his debut novel, and he self-published this novel originally. Word of mouth. It grew just enough word of mouth that he was picked up by a publisher. And he's an older writer. It's his first book. He's a former attorney. I read a little bit about him because I thought it was, when I saw his picture on the back of the book, I thought it was interesting because he's an older writer. I don't know how old he is, but he's probably just maybe close to 70. And this story is Theo of Golden. Theo is an older gentleman who comes to a town in Georgia that is called Golden. And when he comes there, he doesn't explain himself. He finds a place to live. He goes to a coffee shop. And when he's at that coffee shop, he notices there are 90 some pictures that are that a local artist has drawn with a pencil. It's a pencil drawing. I think they say that it's just pencil. And Theo is quite taken with these portraits, and all of these portraits are for sale, and he studies them all very carefully. He will choose one, and then once he knows who that person is, and he has a method for doing that. Once he figures out who the person is, he contacts them, asks them to meet him at a bench in public near a fountain, and he gifts those portraits to the individual. Theo is exceptionally kind. He's exceptionally polite, and he sort of lives by, I would say, the golden rule. He talks about things being heavenly. There's a definite Christian undertone to the story. It is I liked the book, but I thought it was just a little bit tedious. I didn't think that the writing was superior. I thought it had a lot of I thought there were a lot of adjectives. I thought that there were a lot of description. There was a lot of telling and not showing. And it was way more information than I felt like I needed to understand what was going on. But the second half of the story, I think I enjoyed more. There is more to Theo's story than anyone realizes, and he eventually, as that gets exposed, I feel like the book becomes better. But I felt like it was maybe more sappy than happy. This is the first of two books that I read that were like this, and I was surprised that I was reading one behind the other. It happened specifically because I was looking for joyful reading in June. But this is a debut novel, and it is very wholesome with a strong Christian over or undertone, and I enjoyed it, but I didn't love it. I would give it 3 stars. So that's where I am with Theo Golden, and the next book, which was The Authenticity Project by Clair Pooley. And this book, I loved the premise of the book, and that is that there's a green notebook that an older gentleman writes down in the front of it. He talks about that people you don't know people's real stories, and that you don't realize what's really going on with people, and that people need to be more authentic about that. And so he says, I'm a lonely man, and he tells a little bit about his life and his mistakes, and then he leaves the book to be found by the next person and encourages them to do the same thing, write down something authentic about their life. And he leaves it in a coffee shop. The coffee shop owner tries to run him down and fails to run him down when she realizes that he's left this green-covered notebook. And so she ends up reading it. She ends up putting her authentic story into it, and then it travels from there. Great premise. I love the idea of it. I didn't love this book. I gave it 2 stars. Again, the premise sounded so good to me, and I was disappointed. So the idea of being honest with yourself and being honest with others and being authentic, this was a sappy story. The tropes were, it was one of everything. I didn't enjoy the book, but I did read it. I'm sorry it didn't make me happy or feel in the least bit joyful, but I guess sometimes that happens. So those are the books that I have read in June so far. Right now, for my big books of summer, I am reading East of Eden by John Steinbeck. And I'm just getting started with this. I've just gotten to the point where Kathy is introduced. I feel like reading this. John Steinbeck said everybody has, it was his one book. That was his book. And I don't see how you could see it as anything else. I feel like, you read a book and you go, that was a great book. And you read another one and you go, that was pretty good. And then you read John Steinbeck. And especially this one. It is just perfection. I am enjoying it so much. And I'm not even I'm not even a third of the way, not even a quarter of the way through it at this point. And it's such a story told so wonderfully that you just can't read it fast enough and you can't read it slow enough. It's a great book. So that one's, I'm very, very excited about that one. I'm getting ready to, and the other one that I'm reading, which is also over 400 pages, so it can be part of Big Books of Summer, and I have a feeling it might be um, Joy Reading June. It might work for that one as well, and that is Project Hail Mary. And the reason that I'm reading Project Hail Mary right now is it wasn't on my original to be reads, but it is it came available to me at the library through Libby, and so I didn't want to let it go. It's right now as I'm reading it, it says that there's 5 or 6 people waiting. Um, so I know I want to get that book done as within the 2 weeks that I have to get it done. So I'll be pushing for that one. I don't know what the events are in July. I have a tag that I need to do that I haven't done yet. And until we talk again, please remember to be kind to yourself, be kind to others, be kind to the planet, and be blessed. Y'all have a good day. Bye-bye.